Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Well, for his understanding of the goings-on in Rivers State over the past 6 months and projection into the possibilities about how the end of the emergency rule can affect the search for enduring peace and, by extension, the forthcoming general election in 2027. We're now being joined by Senator Ayo Arise, a former member of the Nigerian Senate and currently a member of the All Progressives Congress. We shall also expect him to cast an expert's eye over the political landscape as the preparations for the 2027 general election continue. Good morning, distinguished Senator. Good to have you join us on the morning show.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Kachi. It's nice to be here
Good morning.
again. And thank you for having me. Good morning.
All right. Okay, let's start off this way. Let's start from Rivers State. I know that there are a few issues that you would like to discuss on the show today. But let's start with the development in Rivers State, where the state of emergency imposed there since March has now ended. The governor has returned to the state, has resumed office, we believe, and is saying that let's look forward. That he has made up with his leader, the former governor and the current minister of the FCT, and is asking all Riverians to join him in building a new Rivers State. What are your thoughts? What's your understanding of what has just happened in Rivers State? A lot of people are still uncertain as to the necessity of a state of emergency there, but then they are saying that what we have in Rivers State now, is it peace or a pretense to peace, or what you can call peace of the graveyard? You understand this sort of a thing because it has happened in Ekiti before, and I'll come back to that. But what is your reading of what has happened? Emergency rule is over. Fubara is back. It looks like there is peace. Do you see real peace in Rivers State?
Yes, by and large, we have to thank Mr. President for ensuring that the situation in Rivers at the time the emergency rule came to bear was almost getting out of hand. The demolition of the structure of democracy itself, which is the State Assembly, and the fact that the State Assembly could not sit, and the bombs, that started, and some of the stations that were being bombed necessitated the emergency rule that the president actually had to declare at that time. And of course, it's very clear that that was a suspension and not a removal of the governor. We dealt with this in the past. The governor was removed temporarily for 6 months, and the times were stated. And now 6 months is over. Fubara is back in office, and I believe, listening to his press conference yesterday, I think it's ready for peace to reign. And of course, the two parties, they have learnt their lessons, and I'm sure that the tempo will now be a little bit lower than it was. And if there is any disagreement between the former boss and himself, I'm sure there should be no room for that anymore. And I think those people, finding the embers of discord between the two of them, should take a second look at what has happened. Even though we keep on talking about the issue of Godfatherism, no Godfatherism, that is what is still happening in Nigeria. So the fact remains that Fubara was lucky to be governor because his former boss wanted it so. And I think the quarrel started a little bit too early. We know that this quarrels will come between the Godfather and the godson at some time in the future. But the way this took off right after swearing in was a little bit too quick. And I believe with what has happened, there will be peace in Rivers. And I think the most important part of the organ, the State Assembly, I'm sure they would have shielded the sword in terms of any thought of impeachment. I believe those are the things that I wasn't a part, I didn't even know much of what the settlement, terms were. But I believe things have been put in place to ensure that it's enduring peace in Rivers. And I think the governor has come out in clear terms and that he wants peace. And I'm sure those who believe that there should be sort of perpetual acrimony between the two of them should begin to look in a different direction and ensure that peace reigns for the interests of the people and residents of Rivers State. That's what I think for now. That's my thought, that I think the peace will endure.
Okay.
I don't think Fubara, yes.
All right. Now, I'm so glad that you brought up that issue of Godfatherism within the Nigerian political space, because based off of what you've just said, the disagreement between a former boss and himself, Fubara was lucky to be governor. That's what she said. He was lucky to be governor. And primarily, this issue is a disagreement between his former boss, that's Nyesom Wike, and himself. Now, if that is really the crux of this issue at the end of the day, number one, the president's involvement in it. Did the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria need to intervene if that was truly what the issue was about? And in this case, now that we're now dealing with the battle, according to you, of Godfatherism, can we truly trust that democracy would be an independent exercise for the governor that's Governor Fubara in Rivers State? How do we know that at the end of the day, he's not just going to be a seeming puppet that will be used by external forces to perpetrate things within Rivers State? How do we know that decisions are truly his if at the end of the day he was suspended over a disagreement?
Well, I think his case goes beyond the suspension over disagreement. His actions, by touching the State Assembly and the demolition thereafter, actually gave a lot of room for the third-party intervention, particularly the president, being the president of the Federation, and the way things were going in Rivers. Well, and Rivers is an important, very important state. When you look at our source of revenue, Rivers contributes a significant amount of money to the Federation, and ditto the other states in the Delta region. And when you start hearing bombs, that would drive away most of the engineers working in the oil rigs and all that, or those who are those living in Port Harcourt area. And so if the place becomes ungovernable and people live in fear, the president would have shared in his responsibility if he did not take the action that he took. But I won't say that whether Fubara will be independent enough to do what he's supposed to do as governor, I have no doubt that they must have settled. I think the cause, what would be a major cause of such rift, might be it could have some financial implications. And in politics, a lot of this, for you to be a godfather, it's a lot of money that you have to continue to spend. So, and even the governor himself, as a politician, will have to continue to spend money to sustain his base, with the general populace. So unfortunately, these are things that we are still contending with in the country. This democracy is pretty young. But even if you look at what is going on in the US, you are seeing the power of money working in the US. When Elon Musk came into this election for Trump, the dynamics changed because a lot of money came into the system. So everywhere, money is spent on politics. And why I said, if not for, the governors are extremely powerful. We all know that, in their states, particularly when it comes to primaries election. But in the general election, the populace has a better say somehow. But in the primaries, if Wike had not been on the side of Fubara, with all the people lined up, I'm sure he would have found it very difficult to claim the ticket. And I think, and that's what we refer to as Godfatherism. Wike did that for some reasons. He felt he was putting somebody, his right-hand person there. And that's what has been going on. And you find out that, okay, at a point, the person that you have put in power will start looking at his own independence. And okay, I'm now the governor. I should be able to do a few things. So I don't know whether Wike was overbearing or not, but I think the response from the governor to gave a lot of impetus for what happened, at the end of the day. So that's the past now. They are moving forward, and I'm sure they have, spoken to one another. And the president has brokered peace. I'm sure they would move on and get along. At least they got along before. Now they can get along again. It's just that maybe, yes, Fubara might be a little bit, under some little pressure, but I don't know what kind of pressure it will be on. But for me, I think he should be able to manage his state, manage his former boss, and manage the people, his cabinet, his assembly, and everybody that has a role to play in assuring that governance in Rivers runs very smoothly. That is dependent on him and dependent on his former boss and the people of the state as well. But I think those fifth columnists, the people finding the ember of, okay, you cannot be a godfather. They didn't say that when the guy decided, this is the person I want to put in place. So for me, I look at it, we must be able to find a way of saying this Godfatherism through INEC or the SEC should be able to have a lower influence in determining who becomes the governor of the state through a true and credible primary election. And of course, nobody wants to be in government and he will now open his eyes and say, okay, hey, I want, they will be supporting somebody somehow, and it's a fundamental right. They might have the resources to do it. Some people will contend with people who are more powerful financially, and an incumbent might not be able to install a successor in office. It does happen that way, but it's very rare in this country for now. So those are the areas we have to look at in looking at adjustments and fine-tuning our democracy to ensure that we have total independence of somebody that we're putting in office, from the influence of the Godfather. For now, it's not a good thing, but that is what is happening in Nigeria. And it depends on how the beneficiary now handles the aftermath of an election, of his installation. That, I think that is the crux of the matter in Rivers State.
All right, Senator Arishe, I would like you, given that you are an Ekiti man, you are from Ekiti State of Nigeria, I would like you to draw some parallels between what has happened and is still happening in Rivers State with what happened almost 20 years ago in your state, Ekiti State, specifically in 2006, when the former then governor, Ayo Fayose, was removed, a state of emergency declared, and then after the expiration of the first 6 months, if you recall, the former president, Obasanjo, was interested in extending the state of emergency in Ekiti State, but for the National Assembly, which voted against it, so that the governor could return to office. But then, of course, we recall what happened. The governor didn't get the ticket of the PDP, even though PDP temporarily retained control of the state until the court removed former Governor Segun Oni for Dr. Fayemi to come in. What I'm trying to say here is that the former president at that time didn't see eye to eye at all with the governor that was removed in Ekiti State. And it took a long time for that governor to return for his second term after Oni had served for almost 3.5 years and after Fayemi served his first term. Is there a parallel in what we are seeing in Rivers State where people are now saying that it is unlikely that Governor Fubara will be allowed to do a second term and that he has been forced to accept the terms and conditions given to him, not just from his godfather, but also from the president? What do you see in terms of the political future of Governor Sim Fubara? Will he be like Ayo Fayose, that he will lose his second term temporarily and now will have to come back many years after? Or do you think that this is totally different and that he has settled, all encumbrances with Nyesom Wike and with President Tinubu, who has intervened, and that things might be a bit different this time around in Rivers State? What are your thoughts? Are there parallels?
Well, thank you. I don't think there are similarities of that nature between the situation with Fayose vis-a-vis the former president. Fayose did not have a godfather in Ekiti who installed him. He actually won when he was putting water, selling water all over the whole place when he started. So it caught the people unawares, and in a way, he was able to win. I was in AD at that time, so we witnessed what happened before I now moved to PDP shortly after. Now, Fayose was invariably impeached, and from office after when the 6 months, and Baba still felt that we still had issues in terms of governance in Ekiti. A lot of the elites were up in arms against Fayose at that time, and I was one of them. So it wasn't an issue of a godfather fighting him. It was an internal fight within Ekiti. And Baba's attention was drawn to the fact that, hey, we were not comfortable with this young man at that time. So he finally came back. He came back and ran for election and won. That is, he had left governance completely. It was not as a result of the suspension. We had acting governors, elections took place, and a new governor came in, after Ayo Fayose. And in the case of Fubara, the issue of second term, I don't know what the agreement they have is. Most of these are in the realms of speculation. But it's not impossible that might be a condition. And we are talking about the Godfather. And the Godfather, the one that put him there, if he says what to satisfy him is that he should just finish his term peacefully and you will not support him for a second term, that's a different matter. And it's been proven beyond any reasonable doubt that in this country, apart from the fact that Wike can be considered a very lucky man based on his performance in terms of infrastructural development in Rivers, lucky that he's able to get another place to prove himself. That's the FCT. And when you see the kind of roads, bridges, things that have been happening within the last 2 years, whatever the fault of Wike is, I think he has performed there. I've been living here. I've seen 2, 3, or 4 ministers. But what we are seeing in Abuja is performance. And so when you see somebody doing such, it's not unusual for the person you are working for to have special affection for the fact that you are helping his job. The president wants to perform for Nigerians. He wants to ensure that all his ministers are doing very well in whichever areas they are given responsibility. So that has given him some power that there is no way Fubara will be able to successfully fight him. So I would, as a sort of advice, it would just be this peaceful resolution. They should let it be. If he's meant to come back and be governor, if they say he should not come back now and he has agreed, then that will be. If part of the agreement that's okay, if you do very well, you can continue with your job. Somebody put him there. That's the difference, and that difference is the one that I think he has realized and is willing to work with. We want to be looking at how independent candidates can actually come into our own constitution. For us, when you say you have to go through a party, and the structure, the way the parties are structured is such that if the party does not want you, you cannot win a primary. And if it's at the state level, if it is the governor that does not want you and is controlling the structure of the party in the state, then you cannot be. So there must be an avenue for independent candidature. I actually argued for this while I was in the Senate.
Now,
and
I
agree
think
with
you, Senator
it's
Abishe.
part of the, yes.
Yeah, because, I was just going to go there. When you say with the party system, people are picked, but then there are also challenges with independent candidacy because of the way our political structure is built, right? Now, the chances that what foundation does an independent candidate run on? What is the backbone? What is the structure? Because that structure not only influences his immediate position, but also influences other positions in electoral spaces, from the local government to the senatorial seats, to the governorships, and even to the presidency. So independent candidacy is still very technical, not to even speak about the cost of running an election, the cost of contesting for an election and how expensive that is. But I want to bring up a major point, voter apathy, because from everything you've said, the current structure that we have right now is because people are not voting. Because if Nigerians in our population come out to vote for one person, the voting majority of Nigerians come out to vote for a person, are you saying that we will still have a situation where political appointees are placed in positions? If electoral malfunctions, ballot snatching, insecurity, the thuggery and the fighting and the lack of security during election, if that was not the case, if there was true accountability for every single case of electoral malpractice that has been made public, and people's votes were able to count, would we still be in a situation and in a country where people are being placed in power? Because from everything you're saying, what are the chances that anybody listening to you right now is inspired to vote? If at the end of the day, we're looking forward to the Anambra State elections on November 8th, based off of what you're saying, chances are the person who's going to become governor is already selected. So what inspires me to go out to vote if at the end of the day, it's barely even going to count?
Okay, I hope you didn't get me wrong. The primaries election is different from the general election. The general election is where the people have to, where the people, the general population, would have to decide who they are voting for. Typically, in the general election, you have more than one candidate. So it's not likely that one person will select the two candidates. If a governor is in power and he has influenced the selection of his own candidate, and another party picks up another candidate, now the vote now comes in, the general election comes in. There are two different scenarios. And when you vote for the person that you want, that is why you have in some states, you have PDP governors, in some states you have APC governors, and that is within the same election. And so they have the choice of determining who they want to vote for in any election. That is different. But in the primaries, the governors are very powerful. Very, very, without any doubt. I have been through the system. And so now to the question of whether we still have a ballot snatching and all that. Yes, I've witnessed the gravitation towards a better electoral process from the ballot snatching days. Now, you just like the ballot and everybody will just be voting. These days you have the electoral, the voting machines. You have the voting machines now. Now, if the people that have been given the responsibility to ensure that anybody that does not register on the beavers cannot vote, and once you vote, is captured on the beavers, and the results are known. If you look at the beavers, if somebody rigs you out in any election through ballot snatching, you can go and look at the beavers. And once you have the correct record there, that can be a basis for successful challenge of an election. Things are better now. When you go and snatch a ballot, it makes no sense because those that have registered to vote are already captured in the beavers. That's equipment that they use for voting. Now, these are the things that we just need to perfect more. Now, there used to be a time, like you rightly pointed out, where ballot snatching was prevalent. There was even a time when nobody even votes in some places, some states, and they just come in and write, and somebody will just go to the court and win from the court and become, governor. So we've witnessed all manner of sharp practices in our electoral system. I believe our president is out to reform, to carry a lot of reforms in Nigeria. He has done so much. It started from the tax system. You are looking at the local government autonomy. Now, I believe his major primary assignment for a second term should be total electoral reform. Because if we are saying that, okay, we need to be going and doing electoral ad hoc reform now, that means that every time we have an election, we must do a reform. Now, the reforms are there. The individuals practicing responsible, for going in and capturing people on the beavers and ensuring that those are the ones that vote and those are the ones that the vote will count. They are the ones that we need to look at and appeal to them that they should let our democracy work. We are Nigerians. Right. We're the ones responsible for most of these things. So, yeah. So, for me, I would think by the second term of our president, look at all these reforms that has been carried out. That should be a major concern for him. And it should be clear to Nigerians an electoral system that is less open to some of these sharp practices. All right. It cannot be eradicated totally. I'm not going to tell you that people are not complaining. Even Trump is still saying that there's rigging in America, even though we don't know why he's, still saying that. So, but we are developing, we are growing, and I think we will get there sometimes. It might not be as quickly as many of us would like to see.
All right, Senator, just very quickly before we let you go, I would like your thoughts on how important or the important role that you think that Rivers State will play in determining what happens in 2027 as far as the presidential election goes. We're, almost 2.5 years into the current administration. By this time next year, the primaries will have been held and we will know who will be running, who won't be running. Do you think that how Sim Fubara is treated in the eyes of the electorate will determine who picks Rivers State in 2027? I'm asking this because of the interesting outcome of the election of 2023. It is always said that it will be hard for a president to emerge without picking at least 2 of the 3 important states, Kano, Lagos, and Rivers. You know how it went. Atiku picked Kano. Kwakwanso picked Kano. Obi picked Lagos.
Yes.
And surprisingly, Asiwaju Tinubu picked Rivers State. What do you think might happen going forward into 2027 if it turns out that the political solution agreed upon in Rivers State for Sim Fubara is not pleasing to the majority of Riverians? Do you think that will have an effect on who picks Rivers State and who eventually emerges as the president in 2027? Very quickly, Senator Arishe.
Well, thank you very much. Tinubu picked Rivers, and because Wike stood up and said, this is the presidency should come to the South, and that this is my candidate. So I was able to sell that to the people, and they agreed. Now, apart from that, you are looking at the fact that, okay, Fubara was suspended, now he's back. The same president that suspended him ensured that he's reinstated. And I don't even know what Fubara would do. We don't know if he will look at the practicality of what is on the ground. There are many governors, they campaign now to APC. At least you've seen, at least I know of one in the South. And there are others that will still come. And the reasons why they are coming is not because of the fact that they are afraid of losing that much, other than the fact that they want to identify. For us, if you look at these are our tax laws. When each time we try in the National Assembly, and even before I got there, and after I left, to try and increase the derivation formula for the South, it was like, okay, Nigeria was going to be torn apart. Simply by coming up with a document that is for the whole country, the derivation has gone up, and there is no quarrel, no fighting. That is leadership. There are so many things I can sit down here and say that as a Nigerian, you can be proud that somebody has the guts, the determination, the experience to ensure that what is said, that things might be hard, but it's going to start coming up gradually. And that's what we're witnessing in the country. We are seeing leadership. So why would Fubara not identify and say, okay, this man, I'm all for you. Even if he says it's not, Wike will still defeat him if they go for an election. So any way you look at it, I think the president is sitting pretty well in Rivers. In Rivers State. Particularly if you look at the number of employment, the people that Wike has put into jobs in this Abuja from Rivers, those ones will go back home and go and work. And apart from that, the assembly people, they will still go there and do their work. Because Kaji just asked a question about structure for an independent candidate, which she didn't wait for me to respond to. An independent candidate must have resources. And to build a structure, it takes money. That is, you must have, on every polling unit, you can select five people to be your representative. On every polling unit, those 5 can be mandated to go and take and do another 10 people. So you build a pyramid, somehow, until you are the one sitting on top, and you build it like that. It is not easy to build, but it is not an impossible thing, if it is what an independent candidate really wants to do. So you build a structure and make it happen. Now, he's still controlling the structure. The APC won all the local governments. Now, or most of it, I don't know the numbers, so don't let me make any mistake. I think they say PDP won 1 or 2. Yes, won most of it. And so those ones, they want to retain their jobs. They are the ones to do the work. They are closer to the grassroots. You are the local government chairman. Why would you not do things that will endear you to the people, to your own people? So once he has that, he's already controlling that grassroots. APC is controlling the grassroots in Rivers for now.
All right.
So, and that is what we will see. And the issue of Lagos at that time is different from now. So don't forget all those rail lines. Don't forget the development in Lagos. Don't forget that immediately the governor actually
Senator, I'm afraid
woke up.
We have to leave it here.
It is,
your points are well noted, but
okay,
we really run out of time.
Thank you very much.
But it's always a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you indeed.
It is my pleasure. Thank you very much.